Is there? So just use this to go through. Okay, hi everyone. Good afternoon. So I'm going to mix things up a little bit by talking in English because my Greek's terrible. So forgive me for this. I'll go through the slides, but basically what I want to explain today is who Boldon James are, what we do, and why it's important to you. Okay, so a little bit of background about Boldon James. We've been in the market since 1985, so it's actually our birthday, our 30th birthday this year, so congratulations us, that's great. We're also owned by a company called Qinetiq, who are the ex-research and development organisation for the MOD in the UK. So they develop drones and defence vehicles and everything like that. So they bought us in 2007 to increase their cyber security side of things. I'll explain about our product in a little bit more detail in the coming slides, but in terms of Qinetiq, there's all sorts of different regions that we work in and in different fields. For Boldon James, we're in the global products under the cyber security side of things. I'll just go back a couple of slides to our partners as well. So what Boldon James does is that we are not a DLP tool, we connect into DLP. We are a data classification tool. So what that means is that at the point of sending an email or saving a document, the end user is being asked to classify that information based on the sensitivity that they believe is required. So we have a number of partners, so Qinetiq, McAfee, WebSense, and any other tool that you may well use within your security field, and I'll come to those as well. But the key thing for us is our Microsoft partnership, which brings us back to this slide. So what happened back in, well, when Microsoft released their product, we had been working with the US military for a number of years using our military-grade messaging tool called SafeMail, and data classification is a module of that. Now, the US military were using Microsoft for Outlook and their Office documents, and they said, yeah, this is great, guys, really enjoy the product, looks great, looks slick, it's just not secure enough for us. And they said, so how do we go about making it more secure? And the US military said, Boldon James can help you out there. So that's where we created this partnership. So the end users, so the employees of your business that are using data classification, Boldon James classifier, they all just believe it's a Microsoft product. So over 5 million people are using our product at this current moment in time, and this is in all sorts of different sectors. So I've mentioned military quite a bit, but over the last 3 to 5 years now, it's becoming a very much corporate decision that's being required. And so now we have the likes of Allianz, Societe Generale, Petronas, Volkswagen, Fiat Group, all joining on from all different sectors. So that's pharmaceuticals, oil and gas, and financials, and anything else basically. So one of the key things that we keep hearing, probably as an industry as well, is where are our security threats? Our security threats are more and more increasing with the employees, and that's what these stats up here. I won't go through all of the stats because they basically come to the same conclusion, which states that your employees are probably the biggest threat to your organisation. Maybe not because they want to be malicious, but because they're accidental issues that happen. So, you know, as much as we try to take as much care as possible, sometimes accidents happen, and that's what we're seeing in the press. So what is data classification? You know, it's a fairly new concept within the corporate world, but when we go back to the military and think about it in that way, data classification is when you put a stamp on that information, when you say this is top secret, so for your eyes only, that side of things. But when we talk about data classification in a cyber world, we're talking about applying a visual marking. So this visual marking, and what I need to highlight as well is that I say data classification, Boldon James's data classification tool and software, which applies your classification tool, your classification policy. So whatever your policy states, you apply it to our software. So we say it's our software, your rules, basically. So whatever your visual markings are, and then what happens to that document that's been created and then labeled, it then applies a metadata. And the metadata is what drives the rules and handlings, so which moves us on to the handling. So based on your data classification policy, if you want only your internal employees to be able to send emails to internally only, you can create that rule. You can downgrade if you so choose. It's your policy. I can't stress that enough. So providing you have a great policy, if you don't have a great policy, we can help you with that as well. But right from the outset, if you have a good policy, we can add it into the software. So in terms of what Boldon James Classifier does, this is a snapshot of your Outlook. So basically what you're doing is you're applying markings within the email, so you can see on the third green sort of item is first line of text, and you've got a last line of text as well, so you're applying, that's the visual markings. And then there's the visual summary pane at the bottom as well. And then you can have that classification applied within the subject line as well, so that even before people open that email, they can see the classification level. And the way you do that is that within Outlook, you can have a single click, which is shown here, but you can also have a drop-down option as well. So it depends on, again, your policy and how you want your users to be using your classification policy. So in terms of the actual product, I'll just quickly go through this one. It's easy to install. It extends the Microsoft products and adopts your policy. But more interestingly, I just want to bring you to this Allianz case study. So last year it was, we were working with Allianz Ireland, and subsequently we've taken on now Allianz Greece and various other subsidiaries as well. Now, the real important thing for those guys was the education of their security policies. Now, they had an information security policy for quite some time, and they were consistently auditing their policy to make sure and to see who is using it correctly. And they were never really hitting the right mark. So if you can see, their internal security awareness measures were at 29% across the board. After 6 months of using Boldon James Classifier, this rose to 89%. So that's a 60% increase on information security awareness across the business. So I speak to CISOs and information security managers all the time, and those people that have an information security policy are so frustrated that their users are just not abiding by the rules. Boldon James Classifier puts it right there in front of them. It's not restrictive, it's helpful, and it's educational. That's the key thing. So just conscious of time, so the way Boldon James Classifier works is it applies the metadata. That metadata is rule-based, and that metadata, providing your other tools can read metadata, we can connect into it. Where our heritage comes from is by being able to be flexible to connect into other technologies and really funky and crazy industries such as military world. So if you have a product that you want to maximize more so going forward, like your semantic DLP, Boldon James Classifier does that. I'll just move on. And how it does that, so what we can see here is we've got the semantic DLP tool sat at the bottom in yellow, and we've got Boldon James classifier in blue. Now, let's just imagine Boldon James classifier is not there and we're just using semantic DLP. At the point that the user sends their document or email, it then goes through to the analysis and decision making of semantic DLP, and then so you've sent the email, it's gone. It's out of your control now. So semantic DLP is doing the checks to make sure that there's no bad things in there. So it may well get quarantined. Let's say it's Friday afternoon, you've sent an email out to your CEO who's demanded something immediately. You send it, you go away, and you come back on Monday, and your CEO has not received it. Why? It's been quarantined. What Boldon James does is it just reduces false positives from DLP tools by applying the classification level right from the outset, helping the user along the way to make sure that they are providing or applying, the right classification right from the point of sending and saving the document. So, not too bad there with the time. So, realistically, why should you put data classification at the center of your layered security approach? Now, that's a sort of marketing line there, but basically, what you're doing right from the outset is you're empowering the users and increasing data security awareness. That, I cannot express how key that is to not just helping the organization, but as information security managers and CISOs, it really helps your job get your policy right at the very front line, basically. It supports more effective archiving procedures. So we have a customer at this present moment in time driving their data retention policy through classifier, because you can actually apply classification time frames at driving that policy there. It adds context and meaning to unstructured data. So let's just say we've got this massive shed full of data and information. It's all piled up all over the place. No one knows what it means or what it is, and it's no value to anyone apart from one person, possibly. What data classification does is it applies meaning, whether it's a department, an individual, or a business or a group. Supports the compliance and industry regulations and standards and applies the metadata which we mentioned. And I think if we go straight to the last point, it's fast becoming a security best practice. So a couple of years ago, people would say to me, why would I want to do this? Well, okay, it's a compliance issue, but now people are coming to me and saying, we want to use this because it's best practice and our business wants to implement it. So that's really kind of the long and the short of it. I hope that makes sense. If you do actually want to take a look at how Boldon James classifier works today, come and visit us on the Adacom stand. We can take you through a policy. If you have your own data classification policy as well, we can actually apply that. We can write a new policy for you straight away so that you can see your own working. And that's it from me. Thank you very much.